Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 19th meeting of the Gaithersburg Planning Commission, and thank you all for being here. It's one of the largest audiences we've had in a while, so appreciate you all being here. First up tonight is the approval of minutes from two of our previous meetings. First is January 22nd, 2025. Is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes of the first meeting. I'm sorry, what date was that?
January 22nd.
January 22nd.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Next up is the approval of the minutes from February 19th, 2025. Is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes of February 19th, 2025.
Second.
Read it to the record.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. And for the record, let me make sure to announce that Carol Reeg, our alternate, is sitting as a full member tonight, as we don't have a full attendance from the regular commissioners. Thanks for being here.
Okay, thank you, John.
It's going to be a busy night. We have a consent agenda tonight, and there's one item on that for AFP-10028-2025, removal of Gaithersburg utilization premium payment fees associated with final site plan SP 9556-2023 at 1 Central Avenue, 539 South Frederick Avenue, and 101 Central Avenue in the CD Corridor Development Zone. This is an amendment to final site plan. Are there any questions for staff on the consent agenda?
No.
No.
All right. If not, is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented this evening.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. All right. Now we have an unusual item tonight, a recommendation to the Board of Appeals for BOA-10023-2025, a special exception for an automobile repair and service establishment at 423 East Diamond Avenue, Suites A through E, and 427 East Diamond Avenue, Suites F through G in the Central Business District CBD Zone, and this is a recommendation to Board of Appeals. Caroline, are you doing the presentation? Great, thank you.
Well, I'm going to introduce it, and then I have the applicant will present. This is a recommendation to the Board of Appeals on special exception case BOA 10023-2025 for an automobile repair and service establishment at 423 East Diamond Avenue, Suites A through E, and 427 East Diamond Avenue, Suites F and G. The aerial should be shown on the screen. It's one building with two addresses along East Diamond Avenue. The CSX tracks are in the foreground on the bottom of the screen on that aerial. The subject property is zoned CBD, Central Business District. Pursuant to Section 24-4.1 of the City Zoning Ordinance, all new automobile repair and service establishments require special exception, despite the fact that the property previously operated as an auto repair shop under different ownership. This application comes before the Planning Commission in accordance with Section 24-12.7F1, which requires all petitions for special exceptions to be referred to the Planning Commission for analysis, review, and recommendation. And I'm going to introduce Peter Safari of McMillan Metro Farber, here to represent the applicant. Turn it over.
Good evening.
Good evening. Again, for the record, Peter Safari with the Office of McMillan Metro Ferber, attorney for the applicant Crash Champions. With me is Michael Haynes, who's the general manager for the location, and Jane Prisgaki with Soltes. I'll just give a really brief background. To start, we entirely agree with the staff's recommendation and conditions, so I'll just give you sort of a high level, and then we're here to answer any questions if you have any questions. So this, again, is an auto repair and service establishment special exception. This business has actually been running for quite some time, and it had been running under prior ownership for even longer. It's been in operation since about the 1980s. So there are a few reasons for even coming here today. Number one is the change of ownership. Number two is that there was a zoning change at some point that required special exceptions for new auto repair uses. And then also this applicant is in the process of going through some signage permits and things of that nature that would require them to get their other use permits in order. So that's what compelled us to be here. The application itself is relatively straightforward. As I noted, the business is already operating, so there are no building changes. Really, the only thing that's changing is parking lot striping to bring it up to the modern code. and then screening for the existing dumpsters that are kind of getting moved off to the side from their current location. As far as the code criteria, this satisfies the master plan's goal of retaining these sorts of auto use businesses in this portion of the CBD. It's along Diamond Avenue in Sector 3. All the work is conducted within the service base, so there's no risk of adverse fumes, odor, noise, et cetera. Again, the business, because it's already ongoing and the use itself is not changing in its intensity or character, there's no real risk of an adverse impact to the community. And for what it's worth, this use is surrounded by other comparable uses already that have either gone through the special exception process or are about to. And so, they're all kind of friendly neighbors in the same boat. This is a good neighborhood for them. Again, we agree with the staff's recommendations and the conditions proposed, but we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay, great. Any questions? Go ahead,
I
Carol.
just had one. When you're restriping the parking lot for the parking spots, will that increase or decrease the amount of space for the actual cars? Let's say if they get dropped off and before they get into the bays.
The space itself will be the same, but the amount of striped spaces will be more.
Okay.
So right now, there's
Okay.
a few that are kind of extending beyond what's actually striped on the ground.
Okay.
If
Yeah.
you want to pull up, you can pull up the site plan if you want.
Oh, yeah.
It should be, I think it's probably the third slide.
Yep, there you go. Yeah. So you can see that it's 32 spaces overall, 2 of which are ADA.
Okay. ADA. Okay. Thank you.
What are the provisions or the process for tow truck drop-offs and deliveries at this site from an operational perspective?
So the tow truck drop-offs, we kind of try to get them as far down as possible in the alleyway that we're provided. So we try to keep them off the main street.
Okay, I think that is sort of what I was getting at. I want to make sure is clear. As you noted, there are multiple automotive repair uses in that area, and frequently traffic is backed up behind tow trucks and or delivery trucks who are unloading or loading in the travel lane. So I have no idea who is responsible for that. So I just wanted to hear from you guys your process and procedures and just make sure that that's noted.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was a good question, and I was just thinking about that space. It looks like you can go in the back, but it looks a little tight there, so.
It's gated off, correct, from
It is. It's gated off,
gated off?
on the opposite side where the other tenant is.
Oh, okay, so
Yep.
you really can't,
Yeah, you can't loop
Okay.
around.
Right.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we do have them back in.
okay.
That way they can
That
easily
was,
get out.
yeah, it was a good question.
Great. Any other questions, concerns? Public hearing, right, Caroline?
Yep.
Okay. So we have a lot of folks in the audience, and I'll ask first if anybody in the audience is here to speak on this application. If there are, please step up to the podium. And I'll also say the same thing to those online. It looks like there's a few people dialed in watching us. And if you do want to speak in your online or your virtual, please do hit the hands up button, and then we'll see that and be able to tap you in and give you an opportunity to speak. Is anyone here here to speak on this? Okay, I'm not seeing anybody jump up. And I'm not seeing any hands on the online, the folks that are online. So with that, Caroline, what's the recommendation, please?
So there are 6 proposed conditions that are in your record, and staff recommends that the Planning Commission, based on the exhibits submitted, the applicant's testimony, and the staff report findings and recommendation, recommend approval of BOA 10023-2025 to the Board of Appeals, finding it in compliance with Section 24-12.7C of the City Code with 6 conditions.
Great. Any questions about staff's recommendation? Okay, so the use appears to be not changing, and we've had no real sense that that's the wrong use for the site, so I think it's appropriate to move it forward. And it's a recommendation to the Board of Appeals.
Yes.
So if you're ready for a motion, anyone?
Sure. Mr. Chair, I move that the Planning Commission, based on the exhibit submitted, the applicant's testimony, And the staff report, findings and recommendations, recommend approval of BOA-10023-2025 to the Board of Appeals, finding it in compliance with sections 24-12.7 parentheses C of the city code with the 6 conditions listed.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 That passes unanimously.
I just want to say I love the name Crash Champions.
Thank you.
Thanks all for being here tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a nice evening.
Okay, now we're up to a public hearing agenda item tonight, and to be clear, and I think we'll get some help understanding why it's a public hearing and not a full-blown site plan. So actually, who's presenting from staff?
That would be fine.
Okay, Jasmine's presenting. Okay, so next up, public hearing for ASDP 9825-2024, remove condition number 2 from previously approved schematic development plan, SDP 7362-2016, to construct a 304-unit apartment building at 913 and 917 Quince Orchard Road in the MXD mixed-use development zone. And again, this will be an amendment to the schematic development plan. So Jasmine, please.
Okay, good evening. So this is a public hearing on amendment to schematic development plan, application ASDP-9825-2024 for the properties at 913 and 917 Quince Orchard Road. The applicant's requesting to amend previously approved schematic development plan, application SDP-7362-2016, to remove condition number 2, to construct an apartment building. On November 19th of 2018, the Mayor City Council approved SDP-7362-2016 to construct a 365-unit apartment building to be constructed in 2 phases. And I do want to note that if that original SDP was approved with that condition, the proposed changes they made to the plan since then would have just been handled as part of the final site plan application.
Okay.
This application was presented to the Mayor City Council as a courtesy review during their February 18th meeting. The council deemed the application to have a minor effect and directed the Planning Commission to hold the public hearing and make a final decision on the amendment.
All right.
The hearing was duly advertised on March 6th and March 13th in the Washington Post and published on the city's website on March 6th. At the present time, there are 72 exhibits in the record. The individual exhibits may be viewed on the city website and at City Hall during regular office hours. Any objections to the receipt of any exhibits should be noted prior to the closing of the record. Otherwise, they'll be deemed received in evidence, and I will have the project team do the presentation.
And just to be clear, for those watching and here to participate in the testimony, the staff's recommendation, it's on our agenda, is a public hearing only tonight without action until later on in the month. So just know that that's what we expect to happen tonight, although I think other things could happen. But the expectation is we will hear concerns from both folks in the building and online, and then let staff have some time and the applicant have some time to respond to that, and then we'll have it on our agenda at a future meeting for action. Okay. Please, Jody, are you starting?
Good evening. For the record, my name's Jody Klein. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Miller, Miller & Canby with offices at 200B Monroe Street in Rockville, close to Mr. Winburn. And I think they put me up here thinking that I had a lot of longevity with this project, going back to 2018. But when I look up there, there's an awful lot of faces up there that were sitting here in 2018 making recommendations of approval. And I trust that your memory is better than mine, to be honest with you. But fortunately, you have a very thorough staff report. No recommendations, but a very thorough staff report giving you all the background information. So my job is really just to kind of focus on why we're here. You have on your screens a perspective of what we ultimately want to show you, both tonight and at the final site plan. And can I have the comparative? Like this would be slide 4. Everybody knows where the slide is located. The slide you see right now is actually what was approved in 2018. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to show you the next slide, which basically compares the 2 buildings to draw your focus on what the issue is today. The one on the left is the one that was approved in 2018, and you can see that wing of the building down on the southeast side that basically runs along the southern part of the building. That was to be phase 2, and it could not go forward with the original approval because it encroached into the common alley between ourselves and Saul, and we couldn't get that phase 2 approved until Saul knew what they were doing with their property. So it was basically put with a condition saying, come on back to us when you've worked everything out with Saul, and we'll go ahead and approve that phase 2 at that time. Well, we didn't go forward for a number of reasons, but Saul didn't either. So it basically still is sitting out there. For other reasons than that, though, the applicant decided that we needed to do some changes to the building, new look, a new energy to the building. So what we did is basically eliminated the phase two. And what that did, and that's why we're here today, is you have a condition that says you can't go forward into the site plan until you get rid of, or I'm sorry, show that you've satisfied the infrastructure requirements of Saul. So what we've done is we've just eliminated phase two, pulled the building back. You have a note in the staff report that says Saul has looked at our plans. They're comfortable with what we're doing. So we no longer have that impediment of the phase two condition, and we're asking to have it removed tonight. Mr. Huffer is going to give you an explanation of what is the effect of removing the phase two and how it relates to that common alley space and the relationship with Saul. The one thing I will tell you to make your lives a little bit easier, which you don't have to worry about though, is traffic this evening. This is a letter that I sent to the council and the planning commission in 2017, giving a detailed explanation of Saul's cross easement plans to encourage all the circulation, both pedestrian and vehicular, through the entire project. You can see on the left-hand side of this drawing, you can see through movements through the colonnade in order to get to our property. Saul encouraged it. They wanted to have that. Man, in fact, without those, it's hard to get on and off all the various properties out there. Traffic is not an issue before you this evening because the council has previously embraced the cross easement scheme, the circulation plans, and you have references in the staff report indicating that both your transportation planning staff and the State Highway Administration have found the circulation, the volumes, and the traffic movements to be adequate. I imagine you're still going to hear about them, and you're going to maybe be talking about them all the way through the site plan, but it's not the focus of tonight's decision, which is phase two exclusively. With that, I'm going to ask Mr. Huffer to kind of tell you what benefits come from how we change the plans.
Thank you, Jody. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Chris Huffer. I'm an Associate Principal with SK&I Architecture, and we are the architects for this proposed project. So just kind of highlighting a few of the items that are on the screen here, kind of talking about the similarities and what we've kind of kept between the approved design and what our proposed design. Obviously, the removal of phase two is the big item, but outside of that, we've tried to keep the spirit of the original approval intact with even though we're making several of these changes. So the major thing is that kind of through block access. You can see on the left here, we were originally approved with access throughout the site, coming through the colonnade, through the site, out to Great Seneca Highway. Phase one, and then in phase two, there was access down this street in between the colonnade and our proposed building that for the phase one kind of went where phase two. So the original approval for phase one had a road coming through here, coming to Great Seneca Highway. There's access points from our site to the south to the Saul property. And then obviously, as Jody mentioned, the phase two development would have connected to this parcel in between Saul once that was figured out, and that would be kind of the main access between our two properties. Here on the right, as you can see, the access largely has stayed the same. We still have this access point all the way around the site coming through the colonnade out to Great Seneca Highway, but we've also added a right turn only in from Quince Orchard Road at the, sorry, blanking on a word, at the request and support of staff and State Highway. We kind of believe that additional ingress point helps bring people into our site more directly than just having the one access point on Great Seneca Highway. A few of the items between the proposed and the approved that have changed. We have reduced the unit count from 360 units to the proposed 302 unit building. We've also reduced the height of the building from 7 stories to 4.5. We've moved the garage below grade. You can see on the left here that the garage was a previously approved precast above grade garage that was exposed until the phase two were to be built. We've moved the entire garage below grade. Obviously, this is going to be constructed in one phase. And our main vehicle access point, as I mentioned, is going to be via a right in, right out off of Great Seneca Highway over here, right? The secondary access is that right in from Quince Orchard Road. And as I mentioned, all the vehicular access between all three parcels on the southern edge and our westerly edge will be maintained. So just kind of a few high level, so that was the comparison. Just going to walk you through our plans currently here. So on the left is the first floor plan. You can see here from that main entrance on Great Seneca Highway, you come through the street here to access our below grade parking and our loading dock. There, it's facing kind of the existing service road behind the at-home building. But at the corner, this is our main entrance highlighted in blue here. So this is where our main entrance, main amenities are located. We are placing a lot of active uses along the street with the anticipation that whenever our neighbors to the south come and develop, this will become a very active road. So we were having our gym, main lobby, leasing space all located here. Around the rest of the building, we are having at-grade units on the street between our building and the colonnade. We have units that have at-grade access as well, so you can see those access points from the sidewalk coming to the building. One other thing I'd failed to mention on the previous screen is this side of the building was actually moved farther to the east than the previously approved building to give this a more cohesive and symmetrical street section that is in conformance with all of the Gaithersburg neighborhood streetscape guidelines. So we've worked extensively with staff on the street section here and the street section below here with the anticipation of the future development on the Salt property to the south. As you go around the building, we still have units that are at grade, but along the main streets, we do not have at grade access just for safety. Moving up, you can just see a typical floor plan. One benefit that we've been able to do with this plan is to enclose all of our private courtyards so that all that activity is kind of screened from the major streets and makes it a little bit more of a quiet respite for the residents. As I mentioned, this is basically a 4.5-story building, so kind of in conformance with the originally proposed plan. There were some previous setbacks, which we'll get to the elevations in a second. But here you can kind of see on the left, this is our 5th floor plan, where we've set back the building along 3 of our 4 facades here to create kind of that 4-story rhythm, which is closer in the similar height of the context with the colonnade and our neighbors around the building. So keeping that height along Great Seneca Highway was a priority to kind of signal the building at the intersection and at our main entrance. So here's just a little comparison of the approved and proposed elevations. As I mentioned, you can see the difference between the 7-story approved buildings on the left and our 4 to 5-story buildings on the right. A few things that we were trying to do that was consistent with what the approved SDP was. Use of a lot of masonry materials that was used for the bottom 2, 3 floors in the approved. Here, as I mentioned, we only have 4 to 5 floors. So everywhere in these darker areas you can see here on the right, that is all brick. So trying to use a lot of masonry to have the building fit in with the context of the surrounding neighborhood, as well as the massing overall. And as I mentioned, there were previously kind of approved setbacks. You can see on that 6th, 7th floor of the approval, that was what we were kind of trying to keep in conformance with setting our building back at the 4th stories here. I'm going to show you just a couple of our proposed aerials. I know that's not really the purpose of today's meeting, but just to give everybody a taste of what the building will look like. This is a aerial from the southeast. This is looking at our main entrance right off of Great Seneca Highway. And as you can see here, that the setbacks for the 4.5 stories and the ample greenery around the site. Another aerial from the main intersection corner at Great Seneca Highway and Quince Orchard here. In a view, this is what we anticipate when you take that right off of Great Seneca Highway, the signaling our entrance here. So you can see it, the height at the entrance, and then everything kind of steps back, and everything in white is use of masonry materials. And with that, I will pass.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh,
Well, I was going to say, I said we wouldn't be laboring the traffic issue, but since pages 14 and 15 of the staff recommendation do list a number of questions that came up in our meetings with Colonnade and Colonnade representatives meeting with staff, we did ask Mickey Cornelius, our traffic engineer, to describe his discussions with your staff and with the State Highway Administration and how we got to the point we are at now. And Mickey's got some graphics there to show you.
Sure. My name is Mickey Cornelius. I'm Senior Vice President of the Traffic Group, a traffic engineering transportation planning firm. Like Jody, we were involved in this project previously when it was approved back in 2018. We did the traffic study at that time. So during this process, the traffic study was updated. But in general, the road system, the access points are very similar to what was approved previously. This plan just shows the available and proposed pedestrian network. The yellow represents sidewalks around the building connecting to both the sidewalk along the south side of Great Seneca Highway, as well as the shared use path that's along the south side of Quince Orchard Road. There's also another shared use path that is on the north side of Great Seneca Highway and it turns northerly to go up along the east side of Quince Orchard Road. There's also bus service that would provide opportunities to serve the site. Right on Bus 53 basically runs along Great Seneca Highway to the southeast and then northeast along Quince Orchard Road. And then right on Bus 57 is the green, and that's just a straight shot along Great Seneca Highway. There are bus stops located along Great Seneca Highway north and south of the site, and also along Quince Orchard Road east of the site. This was just basically prepared to show, what has changed from a traffic access standpoint since the previous approval. The right-in, right-out that is located along Great Seneca Highway was the access that was previously approved. And the existing access easements shown in the blue lines, they were basically what was approved previously, and basically what exists on those access easements that were discussed before. So the previous approval had the access easements to the, I would say, the southwest to the Colonnade, also to the southeast through the Salt property, and then the right-in, right-out on Great Seneca Highway. That right-in, right-out was shifted slightly under the new plan to get it as far away from the signalized intersection at Maryland 124 as possible, and that's as far as we could move it without infringing on Salt property right away. The new thing that's on this plan is really just the new proposed right-in. We attempted, at the request of the city staff, we requested to get a right-in, right-out along there to try to keep people coming directly into the site and not have to go through some of these access easements. But State Highway was concerned about the distance to the signalized intersection with people backing up from the traffic light back to the right-in, right-out. And then it creates a couple issues. Someone could turn right out, sit in the right turn lane, and block it until they move over. Also, people trying to weave over to the left turn lane, if you're going to go eastbound on Quince Orchard Road to turn left and go northbound on Great Seneca Highway, that could be solved by sort of running a channelized island along the left turn lane back past the site. But then anyone exiting the site wouldn't be able to get over there. They'd still have to go through the Colonnade, and that left turn lane would extend further to the southwest than it does today, and it would get close to the right-in, right-out that Colonnade has at Granite Place, and then people making the right out of Granite Place would have a very short segment to try to get over. So because of all those reasons, the State Highway said we will not allow the right out, we will allow the right in. So we sort of settled on a right in only, so it provides for inbound traffic to enter directly from Quince Orchard Road into the site without going through the Colonnade. But the people making a right out Obviously, if they want to go east on Quince Orchard Road, they either make the right out on Great Seneca Highway, go down and make the U-turn and go up, or they go through the Colonnade, Arch Place to Granite Place and make the right out there. Or if they want to go further west along Quince Orchard Road, they would have to proceed either over to Booth Street or over to Kentlands Boulevard to go west, which was basically what the approved plan already contained. So basically, just my final slide, and again, because this is a modification from what was previously approved, the approved site was 365 units. This development is 302 units. So we end up with a little over 100 peak hour trips in the morning and evening based upon the current plan, whereas we were close to 150, 170 under the approved plan. So the change has decreased the amount of peak hour trips in both the weekday morning and evening peak hours. And of course, obviously, it would decrease the daily trips as well. So from a traffic standpoint, what was approved versus now, fewer trips, and we've got an additional direct access from that right in along Quince Orchard Road.
That completes the applicant's presentation. We're certainly glad to answer any questions you have. Otherwise, we would ask that you adopt the staff recommendation to leave the record open for 30 days, close it, and we'll be back to see you in April for further discussion.
Great, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Jump in.
I think it's more a question for Jasmine. The information on the updates to the plan, I think, was great to see. Correct or not, what we are talking about tonight is literally only removing that condition 2 and references to phasing.
Yep, that's correct.
All of the other revisions we've seen, regardless of how we in the public feel about them, will be handled as part of the final site plan.
Yep. I mean, you can still have discussions about
but as far as
Yep.
approval today or in the
Yeah.
future when we do it, we're like literally the only thing for discussion right now is removing that phased language that no longer applies.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
I have a couple. I'm going to step over the line on whether this is about the access or not. The new proposed, and if you could pull up, a site plan, it might need to be I don't know how engineered you got with this, but the new right-in only from Quince Orchard Road up on the upper left there. What's interesting to me is that funny little bulb out that happens about 500 feet in. And it almost looks like it's forcing them to turn right on Arch. Is it Arch? Is that the name of the internal street? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also seems to be trying to control people from going the wrong way if they're coming from the south. So it just seems like a very awkward little spot there. What's going on there?
It looks that way when you look at the basically curb lines and the arrows there, but when you make that right in and you come down, we were keeping that road as far away from the Colonnades property as we can, and then moving it back over. But they'll actually have pretty much a straight shot southbound across that intersection when they get there. It's going to be basically well signed and well marked, but we needed to have that bump out basically so nobody coming, if you come out of the garage on this property
can't go straight through.
and you swing up there, you got to keep them from wanting to go the wrong way. So we have that bump out there, and there'll be a stop sign there. So they would stop, the inbound people would come in, and they'd have a straight shot across. People coming out of Arch Place would have a stop sign as well. So, and
I assume
it's
that
got to
hasn't-
have to be well signed and well marked.
Well, and
to
that hasn't
do
been
that.
completely engineered yet, right? This is sort of the concept plan at this point?
Correct.
Okay.
It's basically what we're proposing now to avoid people from going the wrong way.
I printed this out and I was turning it, and just because I was worried about that, people trying to go out that side. Yeah, so I appreciate that explanation.
And I think it was on your last slide, the implication is that the access point to the Saul property for that road that kind of runs up the side of At Home and runs around the side, that's going to be preserved in this plan, right? So there's sort of an escape valve there if people want to drive back through. the
Correct.
shopping
That
center.
access easement still remains.
Okay.
So you could go through the parking lot if you want to and get out that way.
All right, a couple more data points here. So the trip gen you had up the table kind of before and after and I've been waiting for something like this to come up. Is there any difference in the baseline assumptions based on and I don't know if this is true or not, fewer people going to work in the morning and doing more remote work. Has that been adjusted at all, or is this old data or old database, or what's the?
The new traffic study, the updated traffic study we did all new counts. So traffic counts for the study were conducted in May of 2024.
What'd you count?
That counted the study intersections for the traffic study that the city requested and also the state. So we counted the intersections, Maryland 119.
No, I'm just asking about the trip generation from this project. Like, how do you make an assumption about what the AM peak generation is?
Yeah, the trip generation, I mean, you make a good point that maybe trip generation is overestimated because of the people that work from home, but it's
Or
based
have
upon
sliding schedule.
years of data that is compiled. It's an ever-changing, they keep updating it and try to update it as much as they can, but some of that's based on
Let me ask the question
previous
different way.
data.
So when the plan was originally approved, it was whatever that baseline was, or whatever the assumptions were for chip generation from a residential development. And it was pre the shift in pattern for remote work, or even the more flexible hours that seem to be happening. And this is all anecdotal, so I can't even say it's a data point, but the impression I get is that there's both the idea of fewer trips within a peak hour, as well as they're spread out over more hours, right? As opposed to maybe some of the conventional data. And all I'm really asking is, in your new traffic trip generation exhibit, is that a factor, or is it really kind of old assumptions?
It's I would say it's a little bit of a factor because the ITE trip generation book is basically a compilation of traffic counts for all different types of land uses. It
Okay.
keeps getting updated.
Okay.
The latest update just came in like a couple years ago. It probably includes a lot of old data and a little bit of new data, so it's still not set to what's actually occurring today. So it could be overestimated a little bit, but that changes too because now the federal government, all the employees are going back. So there's still a lot of people working from home, but I would say it's a conservative estimate because
Okay.
of the fact that there are more.
That's fair. I was
people
just
working
curious
from home.
what you were basing it on. So it sounds like it's progressing a little bit, but maybe still maybe behind the pattern, but we don't know. But
Correct.
Well,
Okay.
to his point, is there a thought that you might redo it? I mean, I know it's, money, but I mean, or modify it in some way or enhance it, something.
I can tell you the trip generation rates that were used in the
2024.
2017 study
Oh,
were
okay.
based upon, older IT and Montgomery County rates. Montgomery County changed what they use for trip rates, and now they use the new updated ITE manual. So there was some effect of that, taking some of that into account, but it probably still doesn't take into account the full impact of what's happened since the pandemic.
when you moved the right in, right out on the Great Seneca Highway side, so just for, that one there, upper right, eastern side, there is already, there's a XL lane coming off of the turn from Quince Orchard Road that then merges into the main lanes of the highway. And then it cuts back again as a decel lane and turn lane for the shopping center. So where you push out this right turn onto Great Seneca Highway, are you still in that decel lane? Because it kind of looks like you're pushing them out into mainline traffic there.
Some of the sketches look like that because the city had requested that we push it out into the main line and not connect it. But the state highway has since said, no, we want the XL decel lane to remain. So it's going to be into the XL decel lane. One of the things I didn't talk about is the city has requested, and the developer is going to be working on eliminating that free right. So as you go eastbound on Quince Orchard Road to go southbound on Great Seneca Highway, instead of having that free-flowing right turn movement, people can still travel, 25, 30 miles an hour around there and then continue before they merge over. That's going to be basically a stop controlled at the signal. So those right turners would stop and they make the right on green, but they wouldn't have the high speed movement that they have today. And then that XL decel lane, the state's going to require us to continue it down and tie in to the decel lane that
Okay.
goes to Main Street. So it'll be a continuous decel lane, XL decel lane from Maryland 124 to Main Street and then all the way down to Kentlands.
And then
Boulevard.
some control on whether the speed builds up before it gets, okay, good to hear. All right, thank you for that. Did you want to?
No, go
Okay.
ahead.
I think that was all my questions. I'll stay away from the other stuff because that'll come at site plan.
I have a question about
Sure.
the berm that currently exists between the home goods, or whatever that store is called, and where the roadway is going to be. Is that berm going to be leveled off?
Yes, like, between so there's some significant grading coming down, basically starting about right kind of where my mouse is here, coming down, and that will happen to kind of bring this whole road down as close to the existing service road as possible. So then when this gets further developed in the future, there'll be a seamless transition to a nice sidewalk or street section between the two developments.
What we're going to have is a service road that's going to exist, plus a roadway that's going to be part of the new project.
Mm-hmm.
So you have two parallel roads. What's going to be separating those roads?
So there is still a smaller green berm in between. I mean, it's not a berm, but it's a green patch in between.
So there'll be trucks going through that on that other road, supplying both Giant Food and Home and whatever else is behind there.
Theoretically, yes, they could do that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay. So we'd like to hear from all of you. So here's how this will work. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. There'll be a little timer that counts it down. And at 30 seconds, some kind of a little signal to let you know you're coming up on 30 seconds. If what you have to say takes longer than that, please just capture it in a written form and send it in. There's really no sign up. You just come up to the podium whenever you're ready. State your name for the record. Address is okay. If you don't want to give your address, then your neighborhood, so we know you're in the city or not. I'll start with the folks that are in the room, and then we'll move to the people that are attending virtually and look for some hand signals from the virtual hands up, and we'll go to them after that. So whoever's ready, please.
My name is Michelle Rubenstein. I'm the president of the Colonnade Community Association, and I live at 1 Arch Place. I would tend to disagree with Jody that traffic is not an issue for the Colonnade, because it is a huge issue for the Colonnade. And the Board of Directors has a resolution that they would like to present to you for the application for this development. The Board of Directors of the CCA are unanimous in supporting 2 options to correct the harm that would be done if the traffic plan included in the current Orchard Development Plan is approved by the City of Gaithersburg Planning Commission. The 2 proposed entry points under the site address ingress. Exiting except for traveling south on Great Seneca will force many vehicles to use Arch Place, Granite Place, and Booth Street, further burdening an already problematic situation. The CCA is determined to protect the Colonnade and the safety of its residents. We urge the applicant and the Planning Commission to be responsive to the concerns and interests of the Colonnade by incorporating the options below. 1, amend the current Orchard Development Plan to add an egress to the ingress located onto Quince Orchard Boulevard. We know that an earlier version of the plan showed this and was developed by the applicant and approved by the city, but was rejected by the SHA. However, with suitable traffic calming outlined below, it is our belief that the SHA would have a sound basis for approving an ingress-egress for the Orchard development onto Quince Orchard Road. The SHA is addressing means to calm traffic and improve safety eastbound on Quince Orchard by planning changes to the right turn lane requiring traffic to stop at Great Seneca. We also urge the SHA to reduce the speed limit from 40 to 35 or 30 on eastbound Quince Orchard following the traffic light at Kentlands Boulevard. To most effectively enhance the concerns for safety and traffic calming, we require that the applicant and the city aggressively advocate for a traffic light at Booth Street and Quince Orchard Boulevard. We have already begun our own efforts to assist in this goal. The light would be in sync with the light at Quince Orchard and Great Seneca and would allow left turns to be made or U-turns to be made at Great Seneca. We're looking at an additional 400 vehicles at an already congested Colonnade. We would also ask that we propose a cut-through on Great Seneca where the ingress-egress for the Orchard exists today so that they can make a left turn going around
seconds.
there. I'm going to skip some of the others that's already in your packet. And we ask that the project revisit the MOU that is already in place because there's some additions that we need to go through. And I loved your question, Mr. Bauer, because it is true that I don't believe those numbers with everybody returning to work are actually valid. I think that they need to be upped a little. With everybody returning to work at this point, they are low. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you also for putting that together in a very thoughtful sort of way. Now, staff has it. It's going to in the record now, or does it need to be submitted?
I
Yep.
did email it.
Yep, so it's in the record, I can't remember, but it's in the record. It's
Okay.
saved in the record.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Please.
Good evening. My name is Andrea Tishon. I live at 7 Booth Street in the Colonnade, and I face Quince Orchard. I object to the ingress into the new development from Quince Orchard for the following reasons. One, it's too close to Great Seneca, and that's going to really present another point of accidents with people rear-ending one another. But more importantly, it's going to also interfere with pedestrians. When you stop to think that there's a pedestrian vehicular interface at Booth, then there's one at Granite, then you're going to add a new one right before you get to Great Seneca. It's just too many for what's considered to be a walking community. The idea for all of these buildings is really that they may be crossing the street to go work at AstraZeneca or someplace, over on the other side of Great Seneca. And it just would make it too dangerous for people to make that trip. Then the next thing is that the study done by the traffic group, while I do not appear to know anything really about traffic forecasting, but when I took a quick look at that report, it only goes out to 2027. And 2027 is around the corner. And any decisions that are made right now are really going to impact the area for probably at least the next 50 years. So we can't just go on a 2-year guess as to what the traffic volume is going to be. We have to really look at this as a more long-term decision that has to be made. So those are the two things that I consider important to tell you about why I object. My solution would be to, rather than even opening a cutout on Great Seneca there, is to have the developer work with Saul for an easement and establish a cut-through on Great Seneca at the Lowe's entrance and use that with a right turn going up to the orchard, to the new development, rather than coming in on Quince Orchard. I just feel that would make more sense, and in the long run, I think that would satisfy the future needs for whatever is planned for mixed-use development on what is now the Saul property there. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. And thanks for putting some emphasis on pedestrian safety. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, anybody else, please?
Good evening. My name is Robert Rogers. I live at 31 Booth Street in the Colonnade. I've given a copy of my report, which is available. So I'll skip over a couple things. I am supporting of the resolution, which Michelle Rubenstein read. And so I think one thing that needs to be clarified, we are not really comparing 365 units on the approved plan versus 302. And so you can't compare a future build-out that will never happen to the other situation. So I hope that there will be recognition that really the fair comparison is 304 units versus 269 units, which was phase one. At phase two, you would have a whole different animal developing because of the soil development. And as was mentioned, probably a focus down on Main Street as it exits on the Great Seneca Highway right beside Lowe's, which I think would be a good strategy. So in the meantime, I hope that the ingress and egress at Quince Orchard Road will be reintroduced into the plans with the understanding that major efforts will be made to help satisfy the safety concerns of SHA. And there are a couple of city documents that I think could be referenced in this. Street design standards and traffic calming best practices. And there's amending Gaithersburg traffic impact study standards and regulations that have different elements in it, which I hope will be looked at. And then I have to explain my garb here. I am a biker, but I bike for commuting, and I live in what's called a 15-minute city. It's called Kentlands. And it's all over the world. People are trying to reevaluate cars in terms of cities, climate change, all these issues that are happening all over the world. And so, meantime, we have a 15-minute city. I would have hoped that the Orchard would have requested a waiver, a reduction in parking requirements from the city, because walkability, bikeability is certainly achievable in the Kentlands. And so I hope long-term it can be emphasized that this would also apply to other parts of the city. Rigo already has some examples. Crown, the new Lake Forest will have elements of walkability, bikeability.
30 seconds.
Anyway, so it's, I think that is what needs to be looked at is the multi-different transportations.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. A serious question. Did you bike over here to City Hall?
Pardon?
Did you ride your bike to City Hall tonight?
Not tonight.
Okay.
No, I'm just, I did bike today and yesterday, so around Kentlands and to my Rotary Club.
I'm
But
curious to know how easy it is to do it from Kentlands to here.
it is tough. Let
Okay.
me tell you, when you get to Diamond Avenue, you have a real problem if you're trying to go up to
Yeah,
355.
All right, that's great to hear
Thank
that
you.
you're on the
Thank
bike.
you.
Thanks very much. Yes, please.
It is a privilege to appear before you tonight. My name is Erwin Charles Cohen. I'm a resident at the Colonnade. I'm speaking on behalf of the CCA board that has been presented to you with their resolution. And in particular, I want to focus upon traffic. Commissioner Bauer, I was listening quite carefully to your remarks, and you zeroed in exactly on what the problem is here. It was interesting when I saw the pictures above. The proposed that was relied upon by applicant was like a Volkswagen, and what's now going to be built is more like a Toyota. And it's two distinct designs. The first design parroted the design of the Colonnade with two buildings with bridges, and all the roads now have disappeared as originally proposed. So you have to decide, ladies and gentlemen, as to whether a new hearing should be entertained, because this is truly a distinct design from the original one. The architect never mentioned about Arch Place and all of the traffic that would be going through Arch Place. And I do appreciate the fact that all of the studies that were done before the upheaval of what's going on now with, more people both in the private and public sector going back to work and being on the roads. No mention that there's 470 new parking spots in the proposed Orchard. Potentially, all of those people leaving at some point in time, along with the FedEx trucks and the delivery and the ambulances and the whatever, heading for Arch Place, because if you want to get onto Quince Orchard Road, that's where you have to go. Commissioners, I don't know if you've been to Arch Place. It's a tiny little street. It just about handles what we have at the Colonnade. This is the fall on your sword issue for us. We must have the egress. Bob Rogers and myself have already plans now to go into the community to get all of Kentlands behind the light at the Booth Street and Quince Orchard. We've been in touch with the attorney for AstraZeneca, talking about that interchange. I am delighted to say that Councilman Wu and Councilman Hernandez met with us right there on Quince Orchard and worked with us about that light consideration. I greatly appreciate the time for you to hear me tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Anyone else in the room that would like to comment or testify or whatever word we're using? Okay. And as I mentioned, I will look at this online list. I assume it's working. Yeah, there's a hand up. Good. All right. So if you're watching virtually and you want to make comments, there's a little raise hand button down toward the bottom of the screen. Hit that so we can recognize you. And in the meantime, while you're finding that button, there is one hand up from Patricia Brown. Tech team, would you?
Oh, hi. Hi.
Hello. Thanks for being here.
Hi. Thank you. Okay, I'm kind of out of sorts because I've never been to one of these meetings and the formality is a bit intimidating.
No, you're among friends.
I'm here representing my daughter. She's lives in the Colonnade.
Okay.
And I just have a couple notes here because I've joined in and will do my best to kind of represent what I see what's going on here. Number one, the pictures have been very misleading. I agree with the gentleman who just spoke. I think, anyway, number one, the pictures are very misleading. Number two, the project is intimately tied to the Colonnade. So to isolate, it's very discouraging to see the picture development in its own by itself, because it's just so intimately tied to the Colonnade. So when we talk about the level of traffic and it being very congested, it's going to be an enormous problem. I also want to reiterate that Arch, Granite, and Booth are already maxed out. Again, there's delivery trucks. It isn't, again, another word, it's very intimate. It's a very intimate community. I do want to say that I agree with the light at Booth. It's treacherous already crossing there. And we haven't even mentioned it. Nobody's mentioned that there are school buses and children. It's pedestrian friendly and it's not well thought out. Let's see what else I want to say. I don't know her name exactly, but I do support the resolution with Michelle. I'm not even quite sure what that means, but she's with the Colonnade. She spoke first. I agree with some of the points that she brought up and talked about. But anyway, I kind of feel like the gentleman said it's been a bait and switch, that the project they're presenting, having taken out part two, doesn't resemble anything like the project they initially presented. So again, the traffic is an issue and it will be an issue and it will be a tragedy if we don't spend more time discussing this problem and there are fatal accidents. It'll be our problem. It'll be all of us collectively that we let this project go through without spending more time to discuss the traffic. And yes, by the way, more people are going back to work after the federal government has called people back to work, including the private sector. So, and a 2-year projected traffic pattern study is ridiculous. We know better than that. I'm a Montgomery County born and raised resident, and we know that traffic will continue to increase because of the number of the developments being built in the area. Traffic will just continue to explode. And so let me just get back to my initial thing. The pictures are misleading. The Colonnade is intimately tied to all the additional projects that will be constructed in that spot, as well as what will happen at home if that's developed in the future. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And if you, I hope you got through all your remarks. If you didn't, please feel free to send in a written version of them to the staff, and we'll make sure we pick up on any points you weren't able to get to. So I'm looking at, I do see another hand up. Mark Feldman, please. Are you able? Mark Feldman, can you hear us? And can you say something so we can hear you?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine.
I had a technical glitch for a moment. I want to thank and echo the sentiments of fellow owners of Colonnade. My name is Mark Feldman. My wife Barbara and I live at 23 Arch Place, and so I've been involved in some of the communication into our community. Michelle invited me into doing that, and as a result, not a day goes by. I walk the community a great deal where I don't get stopped by somebody who's asking questions. Hopefully, some of them have attended this evening. We had a call recently with representatives of the owners of the Colonnade. I'm sorry, of the Orchard, and so I will sort of echo some of what I said that night, as well as what my fellow owners have said tonight. Essentially, what we're looking at is a monolith. It is work from end to end to end. The architects deserve a lot of credit for maximizing that space. But at 304 units, it literally is taking the Colonnade, actually a few more units than we have, and doubling that. So we have literally a shadow area of a building, apartment building, and the access. I want to sort of mention the potential for issues regarding the traffic from the shopping center. Yes, there will be obviously an ingress egress on Quince Orchard according to the, I'm sorry, on Great Seneca according to the plans now. But as we all know, as being residents of the Kentlands and owners at the Colonnade, is that there are 3 streets that are really in potential peril. One is Booth, and that's a winding street as it is. And there are plenty of people who are on this call who can echo my points about the challenges that we have with vendors, contractors, and what have you on Booth, and then the turn onto Arch, which is always crowded, especially with Amazon, FedEx, UPS, and so on. And then, of course, there's Granite, where Granite will also be used not only by the Colonnade
30 seconds.
for where that is where our garage is, but also potentially from residents of the Orchard. So, in summary, what I'm suggesting is, again, joining my neighbors in this community to ask the Planning Commission and the owners and his representatives to re-look at what we have here. There will be nothing that will prevent people coming from the shopping center after Giant, coming down Booth, coming down Arch, and then making that right on that new street that will be there. There's nothing that is going to limit them.
Okay.
We can talk about stop signs. We can talk about no, do not enter this way. But the reality is
Okay.
that we're taking double the traffic of the Colonnade and adding it right next door, where we're less than a stone's throw away.
Thank you. I appreciate
So-
it. Your 3 minutes are up. If you have, and thank you for those remarks. They're certainly appreciated. If there's anything more you'd like to add to the record, please take a few minutes and write them down and send them in to staff, and we'll be sure to get them introduced and added. But thank you very much for your remarks. All right. Is there anyone else on the virtual side of the fence here that has a hand up or wants to put their hand up? Please do it soon, because we're going to move to the next part of this discussion. All right, not seeing anybody. Is anyone else here wanting to add any remarks? Okay, no, I guess not. All right, so we are at a point where we're not going to make findings tonight, at least if we follow the recommendation of staff. Any concerns, comments, more questions from the commission?
At this time.
Not at this time, but I do have some great concerns about the traffic flow and that kind of thing.
Okay.
That'll
So,
be for later.
Jasmine, you all have captured the remarks tonight, and we'll have some feedback for us in response by our meeting, next meeting that we
Yep,
address.
so everything will be put in a final staff analysis when we come back for final action.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
If I can interject real quick, it
Yeah.
may be appropriate just to ask the applicant if they would want to respond to any of the questions or comments they heard tonight.
Sure. Oh, great point. So I guess, Mr. Klein, on behalf of your client.
Thank you, Ms. Bauer. I think we made our presentation.
Okay, very good. And of course, you know the opportunity, if you do come up with something, please provide a letter to
We'll have
staff.
30 days to come up with some good ideas.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you. Thanks for the reminder. All right, so with that, we have a recommendation from staff for holding our record open. Is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we hold the public hearing and hold the record open till 5 PM on April the 10th, 2025, 22 days, with final action on April 16th, 2025.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. So the record remains open. If you have more thoughts, more concerns, please do send them in, and we will include that in our discussion on the 16th. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Thanks for the presentation. All right, that takes us to, from the commission. Carol, since you're here tonight, may I start with you?
So I wondered if the cherry blossoms were already starting to bud, because we're going to have some rain coming up this weekend. So any insight from the other commissioners on the cherry blossom peak?
What's the over under?
They're at stage 3 right now.
So, okay.
And that they're supposed to bloom between the 25th and the 28th of March.
Okay, thank you, Lloyd, for that update.
Here's
That's
how I know they're
wonderful.
about to come out in full bloom, is that the pollen is already hit, so.
Oh, yes.
I'm
Yeah.
feeling that every day.
Okay, that's all, Mr. Chair, for this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lloyd,
Thank
anything
you.
tonight?
Nothing more than that. I just added it. Thank you.
Okay, Phil?
Nope, nothing for me.
Danny?
No.
How are things, let me ask you this, at the State Planning Commission?
Things are good. We're as far as our annual conference, what we're going to do is, since we did it with in conjunction with AP in Maryland, we're looking at every other year now, because it's a very expensive proposition. Oh, yeah. Okay, so. Yeah, it's a very expensive proposition, but we are planning some regional workshops, and we're
good.
looking at having those, and
Great.
we're going to try to hit major parts of the state. We want to make sure that we are engaging. I mean, as far as Cumberland to the Eastern Shore, Central Maryland, all over the state. But
Great.
good question. But
Great.
yes, sir.
Has there been any concern about the deficit the state is running, and does that come in conflict with your activities and with what you're hearing?
Not at this point.
Okay.
But they're down the road, and that's why as I said, we're looking at every other year. So we're not going to do anything this year for our annual conference, but in 2026 there will be something.
Good.
Yeah. Thank you for asking that.
Sure. It's good to have you involved at that level.
Yes.
That's a great thing. Well, from the staff, Jasmine, let's start over there.
All I have is the next Planning Commission meetings on April 2nd. And we do have a joint public hearing scheduled on April 21st. So I will send out an email to the commissioners to poll to see
April 21st.
Sorry, April 21st. Sorry, thank you.
What is it, a hearing or?
Joint?
It's a joint public hearing.
Okay.
April 21st.
All right,
Yeah.
Okay.
So you'll be seeing email from me.
Okay.
Polling will be available.
all right, thank you. How about on this side of the,
So real quick, the State of the City, as a reminder, is April 10th. I believe the invitations have already gone out for that to the commission, but if you have not received it, just reach out to me.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay.
you all might want to be there, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
April 21st is Easter Monday.
21st? Did I get the wrong date? Sorry, I apologize. I think it's,
Is it the 28th?
We can follow up
We'll
with an
follow
email
up.
to the commission.
We'll follow up.
Okay.
Follow with a
Okay.
date.
The other thing is just a reminder, this on our work plan this year is obviously to update the city's master plan for the land use element and the transportation element. So staff has been making some headway onto that on the early stages
Good.
of some of the data collection. And as part of that is the city has recently submitted an RFP request looking for a professional to perform an economic analysis of both the city's retail and multifamily markets.
Okay.
That data will help us both with the master plan update as well as some short-term stuff that we're dealing with currently now on the planning side of things.
Okay.
That data will ultimately be presented to the council and the planning commission, as well as the other data staff is working on with a work session, which will really kind of be the official kickoff of the master plan process.
Okay.
That's great.
But just a reminder, we do anticipate this whole thing probably take about 18 to 23 months.
Okay.
We're obviously thinking about different ways to engage with the public this year. We did a lot, obviously, with the last master plan updates as well as with the zoning code update. So we're taking what we learned from there and really expanding that out.
Just like an online survey, that kind of thing.
Correct. That's all I
Excellent.
have tonight.
Thank you.
I just look right. It's Monday, April 21st.
Okay.
Oh, it is?
Yep.
Okay.
So if you hadn't heard, Frank Johnson's now the city attorney.
That's
He's-
right.
he
Oh,
is.
congratulations again.
Congratulations on that. And,
Thank you.
But thanks for still covering us lowly,
Right, you're right.
pedestrian meetings over here.
Well, glad to do that, and actually glad to stay as connected with both the council and your work too, because they are very much related, and it's helpful to have both insights. And in terms of my announcement, from what I understand tonight, this will be the first time in, I guess, 7 or 8 years that I won't be at the Maryland Planning Commissioners conference this fall, giving the open meetings training. So
We're not having one, so.
right, that's what I just
Yeah.
said.
That's
That I
the point.
won't be there.
He's gonna miss it.
He's gonna miss it anyway.
Should have been more
Yeah,
concerned if he said he was
kind of
looking forward to
accepting
being
that.
there.
So
Looking
it looks
forward
like
to being there, right?
it looks like the next round will be 2026. So
Yes, okay.
see you then.
And we really enjoy your sessions.
Although I would say if you're doing regional presentations and there's a need,
Let you know?
let us know.
I will. Certainly will. Thank you for that offer.
All right. If there's nothing else tonight, have a good evening, and we're adjourned.